There is a weight that comes with betrayal, with wounds inflicted by those we trusted, loved, or simply crossed paths with. When we are hurt, the human response is to seek justice, to crave some tangible proof that what was done to us does not go unseen. And yet the most profound form of justice is not always immediate or visible. It unfolds in ways that transform rather than destroy. So how do we know that God is dealing with those who have hurt us? We often misunderstand vulnerability. We see it as weakness, as an open wound that others can exploit. But in truth, vulnerability is where strength is born. It is the foundation of courage, the birthplace of healing, and the key to transformation. And for those who have hurt others, whether through words, actions, or betrayals, it is also where their reckoning begins. People who harm others often do so from a place of fear, insecurity, or unresolved wounds. They build walls to protect themselves, to avoid facing their own brokenness. They cover their flaws with pride, aggression, or indifference. But no one can run from their own soul forever. At some point, life, through circumstances, relationships, or divine intervention, forces them to confront the very thing they have been avoiding, their own vulnerability. This is the moment when God begins to work. He does not always bring justice in the way we expect, with instant consequences or visible punishment. Instead, he often begins by breaking down the emotional and spiritual defenses of the one who has inflicted harm. He allows life to present them with situations where they can no longer hide behind their ego or excuses. You may not see it, but they will feel it. They will come face to face with the truth of their own fragility. The person who once acted invincible, who hurt you with no remorse, will begin to experience cracks in their armor. They will feel uncertainty where they once felt power. They will feel fear where they once felt control. They will be placed in situations where they are no longer the one inflicting harm, but the one experiencing it. This is not about revenge. It is about the way God teaches lessons that no human punishment ever could. Because the greatest lesson a person can learn is that they are not immune to pain, that their actions have consequences, and that the walls they built to protect themselves are actually the same walls that keep them from experiencing true love, peace, and joy. Vulnerability is not just about weakness, it is about honesty. And when someone who has hurt others is forced into a place of vulnerability, they can no longer hide from themselves. This is where change begins. This is where God's justice takes root, not just as punishment, but as a chance for redemption. And while they are facing their vulnerability, something powerful happens on the other side. You become stronger. Because when you witness someone who hurt you being forced to face their own struggles, you realize something profound. You survived without them, but they may not survive without change. And in that realization, you find freedom. When we think of justice, we often picture consequences, visible, tangible proof that the person who hurt us is receiving what they deserve. But divine justice works differently. It does not only punish, it transforms. And one of the most powerful tools God uses to accomplish this transformation is empathy. Empathy is not about excusing wrongdoing. It is not about pretending the pain didn't happen or diminishing its impact. Instead, empathy forces a person to step into the shoes of another, to feel what they once dismissed, to experience what they once caused, and to finally understand the depth of the wounds they created. Many people who cause harm do so because they lack empathy. They are disconnected from the emotional consequences of their actions. Whether out of pride, selfishness, or ignorance, they fail to see the ripple effect of their words and deeds. But God has a way of bringing every person to a place where they must confront the reality of what they have done, not through lectures, not through punishment alone, but through personal experience. At some point in life, they will be placed in situations where they feel the same kind of pain they once inflicted. They will experience betrayal. They will feel the weight of rejection. They will endure the loneliness, the sorrow, the helplessness that they once caused in others. And in that moment, they will come to a realization, this is what it feels like. That realization is one of the most powerful forms of divine justice, because it is easy to justify our wrongs when we have never been on the receiving end of them. But when the same pain visits the one who caused it, they are forced to see their actions in a way they never have before. Think about someone who once dismissed your feelings, who ridiculed your emotions, who made you feel small or unworthy. Imagine them now in a place where they feel unheard, misunderstood, or abandoned. It is in this moment that they begin to understand the truth, that pain is not abstract, that words leave scars, that actions have weight. Empathy, when given by God, is not a soft or passive thing. It is a mirror that forces a person to look at themselves fully without the filters of pride or self-righteousness. It is a justice that does not simply punish, it awakens. For some, this awakening leads to genuine change. It humbles them, it makes them more compassionate. They begin to seek forgiveness, not because they fear consequences, but because they finally understand what they have done. They no longer see their actions as mere choices, but as burdens that others have carried. For others, this awakening does not lead to repentance, but to deep discomfort. They may try to escape it, to deny it, to numb themselves to it. But once empathy has been forced upon them, they can never again pretend that their actions had no impact. And here is where the greatest truth of all emerges. Whether or not they change, their suffering is no longer yours to carry. Because when God gives them the gift of empathy, He is not just dealing with them. He is freeing you. He is showing you that you never needed revenge because justice was always unfolding. He is proving to you that no action goes unseen, no pain goes unnoticed, and no wound remains unaccounted for. And in that realization, you find peace. Justice is not always about watching someone suffer. Sometimes it is about knowing that they finally understand the suffering they caused, and that in itself is enough. There is a force more powerful than punishment, more relentless than any external consequence, and more inescapable than any earthly justice. Shame. For those who have hurt others, shame is often a silent but heavy burden, one they carry even when they refuse to admit it. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the pauses between distractions, in the stillness of the night when there is nothing left to drown out the voice of their own conscience. At first, they may try to suppress it. They will justify their actions. They will blame others. They will tell themselves a story where they were the victim, where they had no choice, where their cruelty was somehow necessary. This is the easiest way to avoid accountability, to convince themselves that they did nothing wrong. But shame does not vanish simply because it is ignored. If anything, it grows heavier over time. The more they push it down, the more it presses against them. It shows up in their relationships, in their decisions, in the way they interact with the world. They may grow bitter, defensive, or angry without fully understanding why. But deep down, they know. They know that something within them is unsettled, something that no amount of distraction, achievement, or self-deception can erase. God does not allow shame to disappear without being confronted. It is one of His most effective tools of justice, because while people can hide from others, while they can manipulate situations to avoid consequences, they cannot hide from themselves forever. Shame finds them in unexpected places. In a conversation that reminds them of the harm they caused, in the eyes of someone who now treats them with caution rather than trust, in the realization that they have lost something valuable, not just a relationship, but a piece of themselves. At some point, they will have to make a choice, face their shame or be consumed by it. Some will finally acknowledge their actions. They will begin to take responsibility, not because they are forced to, but because the weight of shame has become unbearable. This is where transformation begins. This is where God's justice moves from punishment to redemption. But others will resist. They will pretend they feel nothing. They will bury their shame deeper, covering it with arrogance, cruelty, or apathy. But make no mistake, just because they do not show their suffering does not mean they do not feel it. Shame, when left unaddressed, poisons the soul. It manifests in self-destruction, in restlessness, in a constant need to prove themselves to a world that is not watching as closely as they think. And here is the part you must understand. Their shame is not yours to carry. You do not have to wait for their apology. You do not have to wait for them to break under the weight of their own guilt. God is already dealing with them. Whether they acknowledge it or not, the burden they carry is one that only He can lift. And you are free to move forward without waiting for closure, free to heal without needing validation, free to rise above what was meant to break you, because the weight of shame does not belong to you, it belongs to them. And that in itself is justice. We all live by the stories we tell ourselves. Stories shape our reality. They give meaning to our experiences, define how we see ourselves, and influence how we move through the world. But here's the thing, stories can either heal us or trap us. And for those who have hurt others, the story they tell about themselves will determine whether they grow or remain stuck in cycles of harm. At first, they may craft a story where they are the victim. They will rewrite the past, twisting the narrative so they don't have to face the truth. Maybe they will say that you were too sensitive, that they had no choice, that they were only doing what was best for themselves. This version of their story protects them from accountability, but only for so long, because God does not allow people to live in a lie forever. At some point, life forces them to re-examine their story. They will encounter situations, people, or even quiet moments where they must ask themselves, what if I was wrong? And that question is where justice begins. Storytelling is not just about words, it is about truth. And when God begins dealing with those who have hurt you, He does so by challenging the story they have built around their actions. Maybe they meet someone who treats them the way they once treated you, and suddenly their perspective shifts. Maybe they lose something or someone they took for granted, and for the first time, they understand the weight of loss. Maybe they hear your story, truly hear it, and realize that their actions left a scar deeper than they ever imagined. These moments act as plot twists in their personal story. They force them to reconsider what they once believed about themselves and the choices they made. And once they see the truth, they cannot unsee it. Some will embrace this moment of reckoning. They will rewrite their story with honesty, taking responsibility for their actions. They will seek forgiveness, not because they want to erase their guilt, but because they finally understand the pain they caused. Others, however, will resist. They will cling to their old narrative, unwilling to face the discomfort of change. But even if they refuse to acknowledge it out loud, the truth will haunt them, because once God reveals the real story, there is no going back. And here is why this matters for you. You too have a story to tell. You are not just a character in their story. You are the author of your own. You have the power to tell your story in a way that does not make you a victim, but a survivor, a warrior, a person who was hurt, but who chose healing over bitterness. You get to decide that your pain was not the end of your story, it was the beginning of something greater. And here's the most powerful part. One day, your story may be the very thing that changes someone else's. Maybe the person who hurt you will hear your words and finally understand the impact of their act. Maybe your story will inspire someone else to break free from their own pain. Maybe, just maybe, your healing will be the evidence that no wound is too deep for redemption. Because storytelling is not just about what has happened, it is about what is still possible. And when God is the author of justice, every story finds its rightful ending. When someone has hurt us deeply, there is a natural instinct to hold on to the pain, to the resentment, to the hope that one day they will feel what we felt. We want validation, we want justice, we want some kind of proof that what happened to us mattered. But here's the truth that few people want to accept. Holding on to pain does not punish the one who hurt you, it punishes you. Letting go is not about excusing what they did. It is not about pretending it didn't hurt or acting like it didn't change you. Letting go is about something much deeper. It is about reclaiming your peace, and doing that takes courage. Because letting go means stepping away from the need for closure, the desire for an apology, the expectation that the person who hurt you will ever make things right. It means realizing that you may never get the answers you want, but you can still choose to heal anyway. Why is letting go so hard? We hold on because we think our pain is the only proof that what happened was real. We fear that if we stop being angry, if we stop replaying the past, then we are letting the person who hurt us win. But here is the paradox. The real victory is in moving forward. When you let go, you are not saying, it didn't matter. You are saying, I refuse to let this define me. You are taking the power back. You are no longer tethered to what they did. You are choosing to live freely rather than letting their actions take up space in your heart and mind. How does God help us let go? Letting go is not something we do alone. It is something God empowers us to do. He reminds us that justice is His, not ours. He assures us that nothing goes unseen. He fills the empty spaces left by our pain with His love, His peace, and His strength. When we surrender our pain to God, we are not saying that what happened was okay. We are saying that we trust Him to handle it better than we ever could. And the truth is, He will. What happens when you finally let go? Something incredible happens when you choose to release the weight of your past. You make room for something better. You stop waiting for people to fix what they broke. You stop wasting energy on those who never value you. You step into the life that was meant for you, one filled with peace, purpose, and freedom. And the person who hurt you, they will feel the loss. They may not show it. They may never admit it. But when someone can no longer affect you, when they realize that they no longer have control over your emotions, that is a justice they never saw coming. Letting go does not mean you lost. It means you won. Because the real strength is not in holding on. The real strength is in walking away, head held high, knowing that your future is brighter than the pain of your past. And that kind of strength, that kind of freedom, that is something no one can take from you. There comes a moment in every painful journey where we are faced with a choice: stay in the place of hurt or rise above it. When someone has wronged us, when betrayal has left scars, when the weight of injustice feels unbearable, it is easy to believe that we are trapped. Trapped in the pain, trapped in the resentment, trapped in the never-ending cycle of replaying what was done to us. But God never leaves us in our suffering without offering a way out. He extends an invitation to rise. What does it mean to rise? Rising does not mean ignoring the pain. It does not mean pretending that what happened did not affect you. It does not mean forcing yourself to move on before you're ready. Rising is a process, a decision, and ultimately a transformation. To rise means to refuse to be defined by what was done to you, to take back your power by focusing on your healing rather than their judgment, to trust that God is handling what you cannot, to step into a new version of yourself, one that is stronger, wiser, and free. Rising is not just about survival. It is about stepping into a higher place, a place where pain no longer controls you, where you are no longer waiting for justice to be served before you allow yourself to heal. Why is rising so difficult? Because staying in the pain feels familiar. It feels like proof that what happened was real. If we let go, does that mean it didn't matter? If we move on, does that mean we've accepted the injustice? No. Rising does not erase what happened. It reclaims your power from it. People who hurt others rarely expect them to rise. They expect them to stay broken. They expect them to remain trapped in cycles of pain, unable to move forward without an apology, without justice, without closure. But here is the truth. Closure is not something you receive. It is something you create. And the most powerful form of closure, becoming the person you were meant to be despite what they did. The role of faith in rising you, do not rise alone. God is the one who lifts you up. He takes what was meant for harm and turns it into something greater. He takes the ashes of pain and transforms them into wisdom, strength, and purpose. He rises with you when you choose forgiveness, not for them, but for your own freedom. He rises with you when you decide that your future is too important to be weighed down by the past. He rises with you when you trust that He is handling justice so you don't have to. When you rise, you break the cycle. You break the expectation that you will always be the wounded one. You break the power that the past has over your future. You break free from the idea that your story ended with betrayal, the transformation that happens when you rise. When you step into this new version of yourself, something remarkable happens. You no longer seek validation from those who hurt you. You understand that their inability to see your worth was never a reflection of you. You no longer crave revenge. You realize that the greatest justice is showing them that they did not break you. You begin to live again, truly live, not as someone who is defined by pain, but as someone who has turned it into power. And the person who hurt you, they will see it. They may never say it, they may never admit it, but they will know that you rose above what they expected to destroy you. And that is the most powerful justice of all. The invitation is yours. The invitation to rise is always there. It does not come when justice is served. It does not come when they finally apologize. It does not come when life suddenly feels fair. It comes when you decide that your future is more important than your past. And when you accept that invitation, you step into the life that was always meant for you. There is something deeply reassuring about knowing that God sees everything. Every betrayal, every injustice, every wound that was inflicted upon you. He was there, not as a passive observer, but as the one who carries out justice in ways beyond our understanding. We often think justice must be immediate, that those who hurt us must feel our pain in the same way we felt it. But God's justice is never rushed because it is never incomplete. It does not always come in the way we expect, but it always comes in the way that is most effective. Through the weight of shame, He convicts the heart of those who refuse to take responsibility. Through the power of storytelling, He reveals truth, forcing them to confront the reality of their actions. Through the courage of letting go, He teaches us that freedom is not in their punishment. It is in our healing. Through the invitation to rise, He reminds us that our destiny is greater than our pain. And here is the greatest truth of all. Your healing is the final act of justice, not their downfall, not their suffering, not their apology. your ability to move forward, to live fully, to become who you were meant to be despite what they did. This is what breaks the cycle. So the question is not whether God is dealing with those who hurt you. The question is, will you allow him to heal you? Because justice is his responsibility, but freedom, that is when you truly win. And when you claim it, that is when you truly win.